In August 2016, a British computer engineer disappeared while hiking a relatively easy route between two villages in France. He set out alone on a familiar walk in good weather, but he never returned, and his family is still left wondering what happened to him. Welcome to Morbid Outdoors, the podcast that ventures deep into the shadows of the wild. Here, we unravel the mysteries of missing persons, explore spine chilling legends, and share the most morbid stories that nature has to offer. From the depths of the dense forests to the highest mountain peaks, we'll uncover the secrets that lie hidden in the great outdoors. Join us as we navigate the eerie, the unexplained, and the terrifying. So if you dare, grab your gear and let's embark on a journey into the unknown. This is Morbid Outdoors. Hello, everybody. It literally feels to me like I have not sat down and recorded an episode or talked to you guys in forever, but it hasn't been that long for you. What I've started to do is started to kind of batch record because my life has been so crazy and busy, and the school year is honestly, it's insane. So I thought I might try to batch record and it just feels like it's been forever since I've talked to you. So I hope all of you are having a great spring. I mean, it's officially spring here in Utah, even though we have snow in the forecast later this week. I am currently on spring break, and when you listen to this, I'll actually be driving back to Salt Lake City from Kanab, Utah. I went down to St. George and Kanab and the Vermilion Cliffs National Rec area to do some hiking. So if you want to see my spring break, doing a hike that has been on my bucket list for literally 6 years, go check that out. So I hope you guys are having a great spring. It is so good to be back at the mic, and I just really appreciate you all for listening. It really means a lot to me. So we're going to get started on today's case. Today's case is a foreign case. It takes place in the Tinée Valley in France. And as you know, I'm an American and I do not speak French. And so some of my pronunciations might not be like the best, but also I don't speak French. So if you just bear with me, that would be awesome. So today's case is a shorter one. It's not a super old case. It's only like, it's almost 10 years old, but there's not a lot about this case online at all. There's like two articles and they both say the same thing. So thanks for listening today. Like I said, I hope that you're enjoying spring. And let's just kind of get into today's case. So, today's case takes place in the French Alps, and the French Alps are the portions of the Alps mountain range that stand within France. While some of the ranges of the French Alps are entirely in France, others, such as the Mont Blanc Massif, are shared with Switzerland and Italy. Now, I have never been to the Alps before. I mean, I've never been overseas before. Um, so I don't have a lot to say about this area except that it looks beautiful from pictures online. So if you've ever been, I would love to see some pics because I can't imagine hiking in this area. It seems so beautiful. So because it's hard to find information and I don't know this geographic location very well, I'm not including a lot of information on it. Now, I did want to talk about the activities that happen in the Alps. So, a range of winter and summer activities are available in the French Alps. In the winter, these activities include skiing and snowboarding and other activities like snowshoeing and sledging. Don't know what that is. I mean, I looked it up, but I can't remember what it was. There is a range of other activities that can happen, in the summer, which is like gliding and also hiking, mountaineering, biking, and rock climbing. So, if you wanna get a good idea of this terrain, just look up French Alps. It is so, so stunning. So, but I do want to note that there are not like large predators in this area like there would be in the equivalent of the United States, like where we have grizzlies and moose aren't really predators, but they can like mess you up. So I consider them dangerous. But there are no grizzlies in this area, and it's pretty safe in terms of wildlife. The only thing that's unsafe is definitely the terrain. So in, today's case, some things said it was an easy walk, some things said it was not. I've never been, so I don't know, but let's talk about it. So on the morning of August 2nd, 2016, a man named Dave Wood, he set off to walk part of the mountain route between the village of Marie and Alpes Maritimes and Clans, which is a small town about 6 kilometers to the south. The weather that day was totally fine. It was sunny. It was kind of really nice day. No rain, no clouds. It was just a beautiful August day in these cute little towns within the French Alps. And Dave's wife, his name is Valerie, or sorry, her name is Valerie. And since 2010, the couple actually has lived in Woodbridge, Suffolk, England, and for 6 weeks every summer, they actually go to France, and so they summer in France, but they're originally from England. And this seems to be a very common thing, in Europe, and as all of us Americans know, that's pretty rare here. No one really does that, or if they do, it's pretty like, "Wow, you have a lot of money," because most people don't have multiple homes, at least where I'm from anyways, in Arkansas. So this was a typical thing, this was their 6th year of going to spend the summer in France, in this cute little village in France, and if you want, look it up, it's so beautiful. So, they had also stayed around the area of Marie before, and so they knew this area pretty well. Now, on August 2nd, that day, Dave was actually working, and he was due to take part in a conference call with the USA later in the afternoon. Now, I couldn't find what exactly he did for work, but obviously he was working remotely at this time, and he decided he wanted to go for a walk before he had his conference call. Now, Dave was extremely diligent about his work. And so that's kind of like a red flag when he didn't come back from his walk because his wife knew that he would never miss an important conference call for work. Now, this trail is said to be a non demanding and straightforward valley hike near the river of 3.7 miles or 6.7 kilometers. This hike is supposedly surrounded by forests and one that David enjoyed most days. So he had done this before multiple times. And in the past, David had actually sorry, I mentioned Dave earlier. He went by both. He went by Dave and David. Some articles said David, some said Dave. So I'm talking about the same person. So on this route, he had done it before, so he actually, in the past, had walked as far as he could manage before turning back. The route does include some sheer drops, rocky patches, and a number of rivers if you venture, further away. So again, like non-demanding and straightforward, but then it goes on to describe the trail with sheer drops and rocky patches. Now, I am terrified of heights, so if I ever see a trail that says sheer drops, I'm not doing it, because physically I could, mentally I could not. But Dave wasn't afraid of heights, and so this trail wasn't really an issue for him. He was in good health, apart from mild hypertension and a brief episode of the inner ear infection. So that can kind of affect your balance sometimes. And I mean, you don't really want to be hiking a trail that has sheer drops when you have balance issues. But Dave really, he was feeling fine that day, and he was at the point where like he dealt with this before, and so it wasn't a factor in him, saying I'm not well enough to do this trail. So rather than take medicine for his hypertension and his other very minor health issues, he decided to get fit, and he had been on walks every day in the days that led up to his disappearance. So he was trying to do it, the good old fashioned way, no medications, and he was gonna get fit and resolve his mild hypertension through exercise and weight loss. And yes, you can do that. I know in the United States, doctors will often prescribe medication first, but a lot of people will try to do it the way that Dave was doing it before they turn to prescription medications. So, Dave was described as eccentric and optimistic. He was a huge character, and he's also being described as unforgettable and very funny. His sons described him as incredibly bright and an amazing father. He was a larger than life person and just a very beautiful soul. And I didn't know Dave, obviously, I'm getting this from articles, but everybody really, really liked Dave. So, the weather's nice. He's got a conference call later. He is going to go for his daily walk, and he heads out. Now, Dave had been gone for about an hour when his wife, Valerie, first called his cell phone to see where he was. Nothing seemed amiss. He said to her that he was on his way back and about half an hour away. So he was kind of, at the turning around point for himself to go back to his house. Now, half an hour passed and she rang him again at 2:15 p.m. Now, he did answer this call and he told her that he was tired and had taken a rest. So she's kind of concerned because, it's been a while. She called once, he said he was fine, he's on his way. And then the next time she called, he said he was tired and he had to sit down and rest. Again, he said that he was about half an hour away. Valerie is quoted as saying in one of these articles, he was supposed to be back by 2:30 p.m. in the afternoon since he had a conference call with the US booked. He had to be back. It is completely odd that he went so far. So, unfortunately, that's the last time that anyone ever spoke to Dave. After that, his phone rang and he never picked up. And he had actually been carrying two phones that day, an English iPhone and a French mobile phone. He used the latter for calling his wife, obviously, because he's in France. So his wife, Valerie, reported Dave missing when he failed to reappear at their holiday house. I didn't see online how long she waited, but, she kind of was dialed in. She was already worried that he hadn't made it back, and so she was already on high alert. So I'm assuming that she didn't wait, like, 2 days to report him missing. She most likely reported him missing that same day. Now, the local police department conducted a 10-day search that included police, other rescue teams, hundreds of local volunteers, sniffer dogs, and a helicopter. I mean, they knew with the terrain that they kind of had to pull out like all the stops to do a thorough search. So everyone is out there searching for David and it's pretty urgent. I mean, he doesn't have any major medical issues, but they do know that he likely would have been back for his, work call. So his wife is worried, his kids are worried, and the police are worried. And so they basically attempted to use the iPhone signal to geolocate him, but because he hadn't used it that day, an exact location had not been logged. The best the police could do was narrow Dave's location down to two remote areas around zero point 0.6 miles or 1 kilometer in size. Now, subsequent investigations established that a couple on a motorbike had seen Dave on the path to Klon's when he stopped to ask them for directions to Marie on August 2nd around 1:30 to 1:45. He had been heading the opposite way. The couple later said that he seemed so confused, um, and that was the last time anyone saw him. Now, his older son, Danny, who's 32 at the time, he immediately flew out with his brother to help with the search. And on Facebook, this is what he said, quote, "If he fell off the path or just off the path, he would have been found. The forest nearby is very dense, and although he is an inquisitive person, he would not put himself at any unnecessary risk. So walking deep into it seems highly unlikely, especially as he knew that he had to be back home soon. These are areas that have also been heavily searched." End quote. So again, like I think when it comes to family members and they're thinking what their loved one would or wouldn't do, the couple on the motorbike said that he was very confused, and his wife said that he said he was tired and he had to rest. So, rest and confusion together in the wilderness is not a good mix, and he could have very well gone deep, deep into the woods. So, I that's kind of my theory, but I think this case just stuns a lot of people. So, despite intensive searches by mountain rescue teams, the helicopter, sniffer dogs, and all of the volunteers that they had, the Wood family, with no sign of David, he's never been found. David has never been found, and his family and a bunch of villagers were searching because they all knew David, they all loved him, and they wanted to bring him home safely, but no one found anything. The guy that was in charge of the French search, Lieutenant Colonel Blasius, he said at the time that they were not abandoning the search because he was remaining firmly convinced that David Wood suffered a cerebral issue, became disoriented, and is still somewhere between the village of Clans and that of Marie. So this lieutenant also even employed a diviner and a spiritual medium to find Dave, but obviously that did not work out. So the theories behind David's disappearance are that he fell and, he hurt himself, or that his inner ear issues kind of disoriented him and they drove him deep into the mountains. I mean, he was disoriented and he kind of walked further and off into nowhere. People also think he might have gotten heat stroke and gotten lost. And of course, foul play is always brought up. And I think in this case, that's just probably not what happened at all. I think in this case, it's definitely Occam's razor that, Dave had some sort of a medical event that left him disoriented and unable to think clearly. And he might have fallen or he might have wandered deep, deep into the woods. I mean, we really don't know. So his wife said, "None of those things make sense. I heard all of his conference calls. He was a very honest and honorable man. He wouldn't get himself into anything strange. He just wouldn't. There was a time when we thought, was it foul play? Has someone hurt him by mistake?" So that's in reference to foul play being a theory, and she definitely says no, not a theory for this situation. Now, Valerie was left clueless about what happened to Dave, and she actually says that it often goes around in her mind like a broken record. They believe something may have happened to his head. He got some kind of amnesia or that he had a stroke, and basically he kind of wandered off. But she says it's unreal because there's been no sign of him, nothing, like no sign, nada. She said that their concerns are that the sun might have affected him or that he fell over and then woke up with a concussion. So they searched for almost 2 weeks and they didn't find any evidence that Dave had even been there except for those people that definitely saw him. I found a post by Valerie in October of 2016, and this is what it said. "It is now more than 2 months since David disappeared while taking a relatively straightforward walk between the mountain villages of Marie and Clans and the Tinée Valley of Alpes Maritimes in southern France. The mountain has been searched so completely it is hard to believe that he is there. If not, where is he? What happened to him to make him vanish so completely? No sign of his orange cap, walking poles, water bottle, sunglasses, or his French and English mobile phones have ever been found. We, his family, are in despair, but we refuse to give up. Yesterday, I spoke to a kind contact at the Lucy Blackburn Trust. He told me not to give up hope, as people do turn up, and sometimes months, years after a disappearance, having lost their memory due to a medical condition. The sun and the heat can do untold damage. So we continue to hope, and from time to time, we will continue to post messages on Facebook and Twitter and ask you kind people to like and share as much as possible. Our wonderful David is out there somewhere. We must find him. Have any of you seen this man? I'm enclosing some more photographs, and then she labels them. They were photos of Dave with his family and by himself. And then she says, "Thank you all, Val." So that was his wife's plead in October of 2016, that it's very strange that he hasn't been found. And like I said, none of his belongings were found either. And so there wasn't really anything until the next year in 2017. And she was interviewed for an article about how she's coping with this, unknown of losing her husband to the wilderness. And this article says Miss Armstrong said, although she has now come to realize she will never see her husband again, it is difficult for the family to grieve not knowing what happened to him. She says that she can't mourn and she cannot move on. She said, "I know he is no longer alive. I have come to realize that, but I want to know what happened." So and during this time, the villagers and Marie were getting ready for a ceremony at the mayor's office to celebrate the marriage of Dave's son Danny to his wife Josie as a part of the healing process for the Wood family. So this was the first time that the family returned to their holiday home since Dave went missing, and Valerie said it was really difficult. She also said that she was not planning on selling the house because she wanted it to be used by family and friends. She has actually, been back, and when she was back, she said that there were paintings that she was working on when Dave disappeared, and she hasn't touched to them since. And it's just really hard for her to kind of be back in that area and celebrate something so great like the marriage of her son when her husband is still missing and they have no answers. Valerie did say in a 2019 article 2 years after her son's marriage that she found that psychotherapy did not help her and she didn't know where to go with her emotions. So she kind of took back up painting. She kind of stopped after Dave went missing. And then now she's painting, and it's a great way to express herself. And so, what I like about this story in this case is that we have a lot of family involvement, as in, like, they went out and they searched for their loved one. It was not successful, and then we kinda see the aftermath of how this affected his family, but also in a positive way. I mean, they're not giving up looking for answers just because they know that they'll never see him again, from what Valerie said, but they are focused on healing and healing alongside still searching for answers about what happened to Dave. Dave was described as having a full head of curly white hair. At the time he disappeared, he was wearing a sturdy pair of walking boots, a bright orange cap, beige linen trousers, sunglasses, and a brown t shirt. He was also using two walking poles to help him walk. Nothing was wrong that day. Dave was in his favorite place, and he was very happy. However, he had been seen by the couple in the mountains in a clearly confused state, walking very fast in the wrong direction. He set out on the walk that should have taken a few hours, the familiar path in good weather, through a landscape he knew well. There were no extreme conditions, no clear signs of danger, and no reason to believe that he wouldn't return. And yet, somewhere along that short stretch of trail, something went wrong, or something happened that no one has been able to explain. Search teams combed the area, retracing every possible route, but the valley gave nothing back. No footprints, no belongings, no clear answers, just silence. Cases like David's are truly unsettling, not because of what we know, but because of how little we do. A simple walk becomes a total mystery. A routine day becomes the last known moment. And somewhere in that quiet stretch of trail, the question still lingers: how does someone just disappear? As always, recreate responsibly and remember, sometimes the great outdoors aren't always great. Thanks for listening to Morbid Outdoors. If you're enjoying what you're hearing, make sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast platform. It's free, easy, and it helps us out immensely. When you subscribe, you get updates on our latest episodes, and it also boosts our visibility, making it easier for other curious souls to find us. Another great way to support Morbid Outdoors is by leaving us a review. Whether you're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen, A quick review helps us know what you love about the show. You can also join us on Patreon for early and ad free content. Find us on Instagram and Facebook at Morbid Outdoors Podcast. You can email us case suggestions and your campfire stories at morbidoutdoorspodcast@gmail.com. Thanks so much for the support, and I'll see you next time.